My fellow indigenous Ugandans, I'm here to talk about Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. I was asked by somebody to really say what I think about Mr. Kyagulanyi. I think that Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, aka Bob Wine, is the best thing that could have happened to Uganda at this time in our history. Uganda is facing very sad, hard times because of the kind of government that has been in power in Uganda for over 35 years now. Almost, I think, almost. It's 86, yes. So we have a government that is really not a government. It is an occupation. We have an occupation of Uganda. Sadly, by the Rwandese, Burundi, and Tutsi refugees that we helped. That I, as a young man, I saw come to my villages, to our towns, and ask for help. And our people returned kindness to them. I remember as a young man, I remember some of my relatives teaching in Rwandese refugee schools, to where one of my uncle's daughters could speak Kinyarwanda very well. And in fact, some people mistook her for a Rwandese because most of us from Western region, and even in Buganda, generally speaking, Africans, we may look different, but you can find similarities with lots of people from different groups of people in Uganda or different tribes of Uganda. You may think that a Muganda looks this way, and yet turns out the Muganda doesn't look the way you expect them to look like. You may think a Mutoro looks this way, and yet you might find that the Mutoro looks not the way you expect them to look. Well, that's the nature of the African people. African people, it's said that we have the largest genetic diversity in the world. Unfortunately, when the Belgians colonized Rwanda, they told the Rwandese Tutsis that they were not Africans. They told them that they were white people turned black by the African sun. Unfortunately, little did we know that this would come on later years of our independence, would come to affect the whole entire Great Lakes region. Just from the little two places of Rwanda and Burundi, the whole Great Lakes region has been affected by this small minority of Rwandese Tutsi refugees. So here we are in the 21st century. Beginning from 1986, Uganda was usurped by the Rwandese, Burundi, and Tutsi refugees who we had helped, who I saw coming into our country in the 1960s. And it hurts me so much to know that the people have committed the worst genocide in the history of Africa. Seriously, it's true. Because today they're using guns, they're using bombs, they're using helicopter gunships, they're using all poison, they're using accident, they're using everything that they've been taught by their British puppet masters. How could a small group of Rwandese Tutsi refugees become the worst dictators in the history of Africa? To have invaded our neighbors, which most dictators that we've had in the history of Africa, in the history of independent Africa, never invaded other countries. They mostly stayed in their countries and oppressed their people in Congo, in whatever country, Nigeria, wherever. But most of these people never invaded one country after another. That's what has happened. By this small group of Rwandese Tutsi refugees who usurped the Ugandan government, taking advantage of indigenous Ugandan hospitality, learning our languages, even intermarrying within our own groups. Little did we know that some of those people were going to become our killers. Over 3 million indigenous Ugandans killed in genocide perpetrated by the Rwandese Tutsi refugees because they feel that somehow they are not a black people, that somehow they're a white group, and in fact now they've stretched it to saying that they're Jews. And because of that, they feel that they should be the rulers. And unfortunately, the British were able to take advantage of that. So did the former American administration of Reagan with Thatcher, later with Bush's, and later with Clinton, and later with Obama, because Obama didn't do anything to change what the Reagan, Thatcher, Clinton, and Bush's had started. Obama went ahead to support the Rwandese Tutsi refugees. And in fact, during Obama's time, they even hid the UN report, which was supposed to expose Museveni, Kagame, and Kabila. Kabila, by the way, Rwandese Tutsi child prodigy of Museveni and Kagame, who was also a refugee with his father, a Congolese, stepfather, a Congolese in Uganda, Laurent Kabila, who was later killed, as we've been informed by the Rwandese who were fighting with Kagame, with Kagame in the war to take over Rwanda, told us indeed that Kagame shot down the plane of the Habyarimana and also killed Kabila to replace him with a stepson of a Kabila from a Tutsi wife. All this information, my fellow indigenous Ugandans, must be exposed because we're dying. We've lost over 15 million people in the entire region. And because of what started in Uganda, and that is the Rwandese Tutsi refugees. This information must be exposed because as we speak, Museveni is planning to commit genocide in Uganda because he's so afraid of people's power. Excuse me. Led by Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, a brave indigenous Ugandan who happens to be married to a Rwandese Tutsi woman with a good family. Many people think that when you talk about the Rwandese and Burundian Tutsis, you are hating on Tutsis. Heck no. This has nothing to do with hate. This has to do with the genocide that has been committed on indigenous Ugandans, Rwandese, and Congolese people by a small minority of Rwandese Tutsi refugees backed by Britain and former American administrations. This information, we Ugandans should be the ones to spread it far and wide so that time comes that Museveni, Kagame, and Kabila will be tried for crimes against humanity. It's sad that we see Kagame being set up as the new leader, the new breed of African leaders that was set up with Clinton and Susan Rice. All these people, it saddens me to see that these guys have killed millions of Africans. They continue to kill in the region. They continue to create proxy wars pretending even to be enemies. Kagame and Museveni pretend to be enemies. Then they come in, Kabila, that they're negotiating. Well, they are really planning on how they're going to continue to suppress the people in the Great Lakes region. Who is going to say this? Because the Western world is gaining from having a Tutsi minority that is very, very dependent on them for their survival. Because of the atrocities they've committed in the Great Lakes region, they fear their own fellow Africans for having killed so many of us. So now they are in the hands of the British and Israelis, mainly because I'm very grateful that President Trump made a point to say that he would not support African dictators. And so far, we've seen what President Trump has done. He has put sanctions, he's put restrictions on visas, and even sent out the families of those people that have been put on restrictions, sent them out of America, and not allowing them to come here for treatment like they used to. So I commend President Trump what he has done. And we really hope that President Trump can continue on this journey of changing the way America has been treating Africa. We really appreciate what President Trump did to restrict the worst killer in the history of Uganda, General Kale Kayihura, a Rwandese Tutsi immigrant in Uganda, who usurped Ugandan government with his kinsman, usurper dictator Museveni. We thank Trump for having put restrictions, not only on Kayihura, but Elwell and all the other people, all the other generals that have committed atrocities in Uganda. But we would like him to continue by putting full sanctions against the Rwandese Tutsi refugee usurper dictatorship in Uganda. And especially now when they're trying to suppress indigenous Ugandans using the coronavirus lockdown, using the coronavirus quarantine to suppress people's power movement in Uganda. They are killing still indigenous Ugandans. They're still imprisoning indigenous Ugandans because the Rwandese Tutsi refugees got such a good thing, a country where they came as refugees. Now their rulers, unfortunately, killing the same people who helped them. I'm appealing to all indigenous Uganda that we do not need weapons. All we need is our belief in ourselves and respect for one another, love for one another, and sacrifice. Whether it is to stop going without buying anything for 2 years, refuse to buy anything from the stores of all those foreigners like Indians and Chinese that are backing Museveni, and even the Rwandese Tutsis, even our own fellow Africans, Somalis, and Ethiopians that are working with the dictatorship. Some of them are even agents of the Rwandese to spy on Ugandans and keep Ugandans suppressed. Because Museveni has convinced these individuals that, oh, Uganda is Pan-Africanist. He uses that to manipulate many Africans. Some Africans, because of selfishness, they go ahead to act violent against Ugandan, to act against Ugandan interests. So I'm calling upon all indigenous Ugandans to work with people's power, work with Honorable Kyagulanyi, and find a solution to the problems in our country without having to go to another war, another civil war. No, we will not allow a civil war in Uganda, because we know now, and that's why I have been here in America on Radio Mnansi informing indigenous Ugandans that the Banyankole, the Bakiga, the Westerners are not the people oppressing Ugandans. The people oppressing Ugandans are Rwandese Tutsi refugees, Rwandese Burundian Tutsi refugees that forced themselves into Ugandan constitution, forcing, threatening, and bribing members of parliament. Some of our indigenous Ugandans who could not agree with that were killed. We know some who have been killed because they opposed the inclusion of Rwandese Tutsi refugees into the Ugandan constitution as a tribe of Uganda. Because Uganda at independence was formed by 15 nations. 15 nations of Uganda formed Uganda at Independence Day. 15 nations are in the Ugandan constitution. And among those people are the Bafumbira. I keep saying this because some of our people don't seem to know their history or don't seem to be informed correctly. The Bafumbira speak Kifumbira. I repeat, the Bafumbira speak Kifumbira, which is a language that is called Rwandese in Rwanda, Kinyarwanda in Rwanda. In Uganda, because they are across the border from Rwanda, you call it Kifumbira. I've always said this. Like in Kenya, they have Basami, Baluya. In Uganda, we have Basamia. Like in Kenya, they have the Luos, who are relatives to Acholis and Langis and other northern Ugandan tribes. So we should not be deceived by Museveni and his Rwandese Tutsi refugee clique that they have to be in Ugandan constitution, and then they play around us that they were never included. We have included the people who speak Kinyarwanda, and those people are Ugandans who speak Kifumbira, which we call Kifumbira in Uganda. We have no problem with the Bafumbira. They are our indigenous Ugandans. Rwandese came across the border as refugees. Now they've taken over our government and they're slaughtering Ugandans. Land grabbing. One should ask themselves, why is there so much land grabbing in Uganda? There's so much land grabbing in Uganda because the refugees, Rwandese refugees, came without land. And when they took over the government of Uganda, they got so greedy. They're grabbing each and every land. And in their mind, they think by bringing in Indians, giving them our economy, handing them our economy, they will be the ones who help them stay in power because they fear indigenous Ugandan middle class. Just like British. The British put the Indians ahead of all Africans in business. Not because Indians are smart businessmen. No. It's because Britain created laws that favor the Indians. And we're seeing this across the world. We saw this recently in Guyana. We saw this recently in Suriname. They handed the power to the Indians when they found that those two South American countries now have oil, huge amounts of oil. They handed those countries to the Indians. That is the systemic racism that we are dealing with in the world that is affecting the black race everywhere we are. Even on our own continent in Africa, we have white systemic racism that is supporting genocide in Africa, in Uganda, Rwanda, and Congo. And yet they turn around and make the people they're using to commit genocide on African people, make them look like the victims, while they are the ones who cause members of the Tutsi tribe, members of the Tutsi group to be killed. And in fact, some say they even killed Tutsis to force them to join the war against the Hutus in Rwanda, just like they did in Uganda. They had perfected the art of deception for proxy wars in Uganda. They had joined us and pretended to be Uganda, imposters as Banyankole, Westerners, and started a bush war, which they didn't mean to free Uganda from dictatorship. As you can see now, we've had the worst dictatorship in the history of Uganda. The worst. Because of refugees that we helped. Now one wonders why South African immigrants were being attacked. And I'm sure maybe some of these have information that refugees can't take over your country, that immigrants can't take over your country. I mean, you can see it right here in America. They're not very easy on immigrants. If you're an immigrant, you got to be a righteous immigrant. You can't come in here and kill. Americans are easy on immigrants. If you respect their laws, as they are saying, if you're here legally. In fact, America is the best country in the world. Even better than many parts of Africa, because some parts of Africa, they don't accept their fellow Africans as immigrants. Unfortunately, when you do like we did with the Rwandese refugees, Uganda has the biggest number of refugees. When I grew up going to school with South Sudanese, Rwandese. I never felt anything against them. But look at these guys. During Idi Amin, the South Sudanese killed us. They were their nyanyas. With Obote, Obote put them in the military. Obote put the Rwandese in the military because he wanted to use them, a selfish brother from Uganda. A British puppet too, who they brought from Kenya to take over the government of Uganda and undermine the kingdoms that we had in Uganda. This man became so selfish and brought in the Rwandese and the Sudanese into a military intelligence. And that's why we ended up with the situation, Amin taking over the government and Amin using Southern Sudanese to kill us. Now we have Rwandese who are killing us because of the mistakes of the same man, Obote. I'm saying all this to make Ugandans understand how important Kyagulanyi is right now at this time of our history. How important Kyagulanyi is. He's the first indigenous Ugandan in the opposition. Better put, he's the first leader of the opposition in Uganda. Well, we've had other Ugandans like Mao and a few others, Kenya Obote. These guys are puppets of the Rwandese Tutsis. They're still thinking that in the old time, that they still think in terms of how Obote thought, instead of joining all of us to get rid of Museveni and his Rwandese, Burundian Tutsi killers. We should all join with Honorable Kyagulanyi. He's our only hope right now. He is our only hope right now for the route he has taken, non-violent route. I personally have become very disenchanted about guerrilla wars and freedom fighters going to the bush, coming with a gun blazing. At this time, I don't even trust them, because we learned that Museveni has even infiltrated the bushes. He's using people to infiltrate the bush and pretend like they're guerrillas so they can kill us. The only way we can defeat the Rwandese Tutsi refugees, whose goal is to kill and kill so they can establish themselves as a dominant power in the Great Lakes region, and mainly in Uganda, because Uganda is the center. The best way to defeat them is non-violently. Because having been in America, I've seen what non-violence can do to an oppressive regime. Like in America, during the Jim Crow laws, when black people were refused to go anywhere, black people were refused to go and eat in white restaurants and all that, black people organized. Unfortunately, also some white people organized and joined them, worked together. I saw people who went all over America on buses. Even when their lives were in danger, they could get killed. Some of them got killed, opposing discrimination of white-only buses, white seats only. Some black people and white people joined hands and went across the country, sitting together, opposing what was going on in America, non-violently. The police was hosing them with water. The police was tear gassing them, but they refused. They went on. And they defeated that mentality. Even though today America has problems, racial problems. But it's nowhere near what it was. And really, America has made progress. Of all the countries in the world, I think America has made the best progress. We still have to see where it's going to head to. So far, it's been very sad with George Floyd death, the police brutality, but the police are also victims of circumstances, because there's a systemic racism that is going on, and you can't blame it only on the cops. Because you saw last time that woman, I don't know her name, Cooper or something Cooper, what was her name? Was it Cooper? Who tried to say a black guy watching birds was trying to harass her or rape her or something, because she knew she could do it and get away with it and even have the black guy killed. So when people say that black lives don't matter, they are terribly wrong. Black lives matter because of the history of racism, oppression against our people, oppression against Africans. Look at Africa, look at Uganda. We've lost 3 million people. And yet the white systemic racist countries have covered it up. And to make it worse, our own fellow black president in America, the first American president, covered it up with his Secretary of African Foreign Affairs. She was the one dealing with Rwanda. Susan Rice, she covered all this up. Susan Rice covered that up. The genocide in Rwanda, the looting of Congo was in the UN report, and Susan Rice and Obama, they covered it up. So that's why I'm led to think that we need everybody. And especially after seeing America and how they fought against racism. So at this juncture, I'm really requesting not only Ugandans, because even Ugandans have let me down. Sometimes I'm the only one speaking up against the genocide in Uganda, which everybody knows happened. But some people have been pushed into such fear, they are afraid for their lives. But sometimes we have to stop being afraid for our lives and say enough is enough. Let's expose all the people that are involved in the genocide. We've lost about 15 million people since 1986 to now. We've lost even almost 20 people saying. I know for sure in Uganda we've lost 3 million. In Congo by 1996 they had lost 6. But Kabila went on killing and killing. Now people are saying up to 15 million Congolese have been killed. I saw lorries and trucks moving dead bodies. I couldn't believe, and people standing and watching. All because white systemic racists want African resources. Instead of working with Africans to get the resources peacefully through trade, they want to come and exploit us, use a weak link of our people. A weak link among us, who are the Rwandese Tutsi refugee minority that have slaughtered 3 million of my own indigenous Ugandans, our own citizens in Rwanda, our own fellow Africans in Congo. They caused this genocide in Rwanda. What is so bad, they put the $10 billion fine on Ugandans. So Uganda is supposed to pay $10 billion because of Rwandese who took over Ugandan government and then invaded Rwanda, caused the genocide in Rwanda, invaded Congo, looted Congo, caused the genocide in Congo. How fair is that? Why is it not Britain, America, Clinton, and Israel that are paying the fine for $10 billion? Why Uganda? We are victims of British, Reagan, Bush, Clinton, imposing Rwandese Tutsi on our government, on our country, and then invading Rwanda, invading Congo. Why should Ugandans be the ones to pay $10 billion? My fellow indigenous Uganda, I'm very saddened to see that even Ugandans here in diaspora, they not speak up about what has happened. They just shut up because Rwandese say, oh, it's tribalism. No, we have to learn to analyze situation. We have to learn to make our voices heard about what really has happened and what tribalism is and what genocide by a refugee group means. I'll be continuing on this topic. I'm going to be on other channels, other platforms, but this one I made to let you know that Honorable Kyagulanyi is our hope. All indigenous Ugandans from north, south, east, west should join with Honorable Kyagulanyi and People's Power to defeat the Rwandese Tutsi refugee usurper dictator Museveni, who has killed over 3 million indigenous Ugandans. With his friends in the opposition that he was with in Luwero, killing Ugandans, committing genocide in Luwero, he was able to confuse Ugandans and take over the Ugandan opposition politics. So that's why this information has not been able to come out until recently, when actually I have been bringing out this information on Radio Monansi, which has been going on over 10 years here in California. So the information has been there, but it would have made more meaning, or it would have made more, it would have been more powerful and heard by more people if the opposition in Uganda raised the issue with even African countries, the UN, and foreign governments. But because the people in the opposition were the same people that were with Museveni in Luwero Triangle, killing, committing genocide, his own fellow Rwandese Tutsi refugee, Ugandan imposters, Besigye, Mugisha Muntu, Mbabazi, they were there with Kutesa, killing Ugandans. These are the same people who took over Ugandan government and took over Ugandan opposition politics. For those who are wondering why this has not been heard, this is the reason why. They were so evilly smart that they took over even the Ugandan opposition politics. And they've been deceiving us. Besigye, Mugisha Muntu, Amama Mbabazi, Byanyima, all these people. They've been in Uganda for many years. They took advantage of Ugandan hospitality and killed so many of our people so they could get our government. But when they invaded Rwanda, they didn't all go back to Rwanda. Some of them went back with a plan to take over the entire region under what is called the Tutsi 50-year master plan, Of course, to deceive us, they did add in a part which is Ugandan, that is the Tutsi Hima 50-year master plan. But they did that because they have become the Himas of Uganda. They are the one impostering as Bahimas of Uganda. The Bahima of Uganda and Banyankole of Uganda are on the receiving end. Their land and all what they had has been taken. Even their kingdom cannot have a word in what's going on. The Museveni allowed all the other kingdoms, but he never allowed the Banyankole, because he knew if the Banyankole kingdom came back, then the real Tutsis would be exposed who are hiding under the Bahima clan or the Banyankole people. They'll be revealed. So in order to stop that from happening, they actually did not allow the kingdom of Ankole to come about. They will tell you, oh, the people of Ankole didn't like it. They're lying, because Museveni has made kingdoms even where there were no kingdoms. He has made the kingdom of Bwamba. There was no kingdom of Bwamba. He has made the kingdom of Bakonjo. There was no kingdom of Bakonjo, even though there were people fighting about having a kingdom in Kasese with the Bakonjo people. The Rwenzururu movement were fighting to do that. Well, that is a long history, but overall, the only kings in Uganda were Buganda, Toro, Ankole, Bunyoro, Busoga, and in north they had what they call the Ruot. So we have been deceived all these years. It's high time Ugandan people woke up and became fearless to free ourselves from the domination of a very evil genocidal Rwandese Tutsi refugee clique that is committing genocide. Even now we speak on Ugandans, and is even planning to kill more Ugandans. And I feel that this time we should bring this out, because we cannot allow them to kill more Ugandans. We cannot allow them to kill Kyagulanyi or continue killing people power supporters and get away with it under the guise of tribalism, when we know the issue that is affecting us in Uganda is not tribalism. What is affecting us today in Uganda is an occupation of a refugee group backed by Britain and Israel right now. America used to, but right now with Trump, it's iffy. We don't know. We're still questioning. We don't know. But so far, Trump has shown that he's willing to put sanctions on these people. That's something that Obama didn't do. So we're very grateful to the government of the administration of Trump for what they've at least dared do. The first footsteps, at least. They've taken steps to challenge what is going on in Uganda under the Rwandese Tutsi dictatorship. They've taken steps to do that. So we thank them. And we hope that they'll put full sanctions, especially now when the elections are coming about and Museveni is planning to commit genocide on our people with the LDU. He's formed militias that are killing now people, that are killing our people now, and also using the coronavirus quarantine to kill and even do more, limit more freedom of speech in Uganda. So it's up to us indigenous Uganda, especially us in diaspora. And that's one of the reasons why I had a problem with Dr. Kiyingi when he said that, we can't, the Rwandese, not all Rwandese are bad. The Rwandese, some of them have done good. And, yeah, even in heaven, if you've been nice and you do one terrible thing, you kill somebody, you think the Creator Almighty won't judge you for that? Of course you'll be judged. And even regular law, you can't say because this guy was always good, we're not going to punish him. They punish you. If you committed an atrocity, a serious crime, you be punished. So one to tell me that because some Rwandese have done good, we shouldn't talk about Museveni and his Rwandese Tutsi clique that have committed genocide on 3 million Ugandans. My dear, we learn from people who that has happened to. We learn from Jewish people that were killed by Germans. Up to now, the Jewish people, after 100 years, remember what happened in Germany. But this is happening to us now. How can you tell me to forget people who are killing us? Dr. Kiyingi, I had a problem with that. I really have a problem with that. To tell me that not all Rwandese are bad. It's like I didn't say all Rwandese are bad. Okay? And in fact, I'm looking for those Rwandese who can come out and tell us, okay, you know, it's terrible what Museveni and our Rwandese Tutsi refugee kinsmen have done to Uganda. I give that example all the time, that here in America, when Arab terrorists or any other terrorists come and do, terrorists actually, Muslim terrorists call it, when they come here and commit a terrorist act, many of them come and say, we don't support terrorism. The Islamic religion is not about that. Why haven't there been Rwandese coming and telling us that they don't support Museveni, that they will not support someone who kills people that have helped them? We've helped Rwandese. They've been in Uganda for over 30 years, some over 50, some almost 70 years. But remember, even the British were in Uganda for 70 years, but we still didn't accept them because of what they had done. They had committed atrocities. They had committed genocide. They have killed our king. They killed even some of our kings, the British. So our people didn't accept them. They said they had to leave. So who are the Rwandese to think that they can kill over 3 million people? The British were not allowed by our people. They were not let to do something like that. Our people, our kings fought them. And they had to find a middle ground to keep sanity and also have power in Uganda, which was a protectorate, not a colony, because our kings fought them hard. But we Ugandans right now, we are just like cowards. Why can't we fight the Rwandese in any way possible? And right now I'm saying we can do it. United Ugandans can do it non-violently. Refuse to buy anything. Refuse to buy anything. Refuse to buy anything from any store, especially those stores of Indians, Somalis, Ethiopians, and many of these people that are backing the regime because the regime has told them that, oh, we are Pan-African, come on, do business. But don't those Somalis, Indians see what is happening to indigenous Ugandans? They're selfish. So then we have to campaign against them too. Stop buying things from their stores. Stop buying things from indigenous Ugandans that are dealing with the regime, that are supporting the regime. Indigenous Ugandans. Stop dealing with them. Organize. Go on. Right now, this is the right time. The lockdown. When they tell us to go back to work, refuse to go back to work even after the lockdown. Refuse to go back to work. It's very important we do something about what Museveni and his Tutsi clique are doing to Uganda. The British must be talked about. The Israelis must be talked about. How can they allow genocide to continue in Uganda and even finance the genocide of indigenous Uganda? Finance the land grabbing of indigenous Ugandans. You hear all these people buying land. I hear Israelis now have land in Uganda. They're growing marijuana. The Indians are in cahoots with the Rwandese Tutsis. They're taking people's lands day in, day out. The Indians. There comes the Chinese, the same thing. So my fellow indigenous Ugandans, let's go on a buying boycott. Boycott every business entity. Use your working power. Stop work. If work starts, let us not go back to work. Let us not buy. Sacrifice. People have done that. I saw it. I lived in Ethiopia. Haile Selassie was supposed to be king of kings, but the people overthrew him within a month when they were tired of him because he saw his people dying, starving to death during the famine. That's what took over Haile Selassie. In Uganda, there's been so many of those things, but Ugandans still are so patient, are so confused, so threatened, so afraid because of the level of violence the Rwandese have used. But now this is the time. We don't have to partake in the kind of violence they're doing to us. We have to go ahead and start our own revolution of no buying anything from any store, not working for them. That's how we are going to be able to get rid of these people. Because I don't trust the people that are saying that they got guns, they're going to fight. I don't trust them. People power is more powerful than the people in power. and the people united will never be defeated. I thank you. Goodbye.